Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back on a Monday night asking the same question we ask every Monday night. What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. I'm waiting for it to be breaking news that Everton's social media was hijacked by a 12-year-old who was bored of playing Mario Kart. That's what's going on. What's going on with you, mate?
I think the same. Yeah, I mean the whole you hope for a little bit of retribution when the tables are turned at the end of the season, and
Really do.
bookmark those tweets, because that will come back on them tenfold if result or things go the other way when it comes back to St James's later in the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to get stuck right into that tonight. We've got loads to talk about. We were nearly late because we were having a disagreement about one of the topics tonight, actually. So we've got plenty to talk about tonight on the channel. So thank you so much for joining us. As always, we are live tonight. So jump in the comments, as a few of you have done already. We'll get those comments in a minute. And if this is the kind of thing you do like and you just chat us out for the first time, good evening to you. Smash subscribe. Hang around a little bit longer. We're closing in on that 9,000 subscriber mark. We've got a great prize, which is the blue retro McEwen shirt, an extra large, I think it is. So hopefully that can be yours. Once we get to 9K, we'll do a prize draw video and you could be in it to win it. So, Mark, let's get stuck in there. The only one place to start really was the game on Saturday night. It wasn't quite what we were hoping for. Very interestingly, though, I think Everton knew they were outplayed because we didn't get any rage-fueled Scouse Mackhams in the comments, and no other content creator appeared to either. Probably because they knew they were crap, really. But they were crap to the point where they probably were hoping to nick it 1-0, and they so nearly did. But we've marked it as 2 points dropped for Newcastle. I wasn't really angry in the post-match. I was just kind of a bit perplexed.
Disappointed?
No, I wasn't even disappointed, because I think we played some really nice football at times, but I think I said it was all fart and no shite. There was just no point knocking the ball around and having these lovely, silky passing triangles when you kind of finish a sentence, really, which is exactly what the problem was, wasn't it? We just had nothing up front. Toothless, I think, is what we called this one, mate. It was probably about right, wasn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, it was pure dominance in terms of possession. What was it, 68 to 32, 14 shots to 8. I mean, double the number of passes. It was almost embarrassingly one-sided in that regard. It was, but the lack of a cutting edge was there for all to see, and players, as much as we praise the way that they're adaptable and they can play across different positions, it's telling that when it comes to it, that you need specific players in specific positions, as in a centre forward, and we're going to come to that.
Well, speaking of specific positions, that's hard to say after a couple of years, isn't it? George is a contender for the early comment of the night, saying Saturday against Everton was like shagging a bloke on a bed of nails, a very deflating experience. Absolutely. But to be fair, George, I think we would have missed the fucking hole the way we were playing on Saturday, mate. There was no cut and thrust in that particular performance. Trevor's in the house as well. Good to see you, Trevor. Got a couple of the comments there. Trevor is also saying, should have sold Twisty Face Gordon, sold FFP in one swoop, kept Anderson and Minter down to the illiteracy of our phenomenally overrated manager that we didn't. He's not a happy camper. But Ian's happy to see us, which is very good. But yeah, I think you're right, Mark. I think it was just, there was some good signs of something in the game. I think the kind of midfield superiority of Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno was there for all to see. They weren't particularly playing against a very good midfield, in all fairness. But the kind of fluidity and passing. They were kind. Yeah, very kind. The fluidity and passing, I think it also helped unlock Joe Linton's potential to go box to box again, which is what he was doing a lot of. His ball retention is still not great, but the other two are so much better that it didn't really seem to cause a problem. But there was a lot of lovely kind of back and forths, but you could see in those players' eyes that they just didn't really have anybody to pass it to. This whole thing of Gordon playing as a striker is just one of the most frustrating things in the world for me. We're going to get into the striker thing in a minute. I'd love to sit and talk to Eddie Howe and just say, what are you talking about, Eddie? He's not a centre forward. I think you've got some stat slides marked to kind of pull up the real visible problem with having a lack of people with strikers nous to make a movement that a striker makes. Now, we know some of the best strikers in world football do fuck all for 80 minutes, move 10 yards and win 2 goals and score 2 goals and win the game 2-0. Van Nistelrooy was an absolute legend at it, wasn't he, to be fair, as was Lineker back in the old days. But show us some of these slides, Mark, and they can just, maybe Eddie Howe can watch this and see why the wingers that he's trying to shoehorn in there on centre forwards.
Yeah, so I was all full of praise for the way that Eddie Howe approached last week against City, and an equal measure that you have to look at something and go, well, there was clearly an issue on Saturday from the get-go. It was there were lots of opportunities to get the ball into good positions and put the ball into good positions for a centre forward to score. And there wasn't anybody on the field with a striker's instinct. However, and that's exactly it, Philip, and that's what I want to come to, is there's a striker on the bench that has that instinct. We haven't seen it yet, but he's done it at development level league, and he's done it for the under 21s for Denmark. So you've got to have at least have a go, and this is kind of where we're looking at it. And 26 minutes in, Gordon getting into those positions in the box, which you kind of want him to do as a forward anyway, but not as a centre forward. And there's just nobody to pull the ball to. Obviously Tonali's trying to make his way into the box. Barnes is coming in from the far side, but when the ball comes in, you're begging for your centre forward to be in that position in the centre of the box, running in, tapping that 1-0. Job's done. Similarly, you sometimes had the opposite. You had an overload of players in. What Jacob Murphy is doing there is, I have no idea. He should be 5 yards back, where I've kind of ghosted him here at the back post. If that ball is looped over the top, and as we've seen with others this weekend, misses out everybody in front. That's how Yakuba Minta's goal came about yesterday, where it missed everybody, and Doggy, dived over the ball, almost missed it, and it came to him at the back stick, and he was able to stop it and put it in the net. What Jacob Murphy is doing that close to Joe Linton and Gordon, I've no idea.
If only we had a player like him, Mark. Oh, hang on a minute. Wait a minute.
Well, I did like to see Joe Linton getting into those positions, but it was sort of a little bit hit and miss with him. And that was sort of it. I think I've kind of put my slides in the wrong order, so bear with me. Just as a note, how any Everton fan can say that's not a penalty.
What was that about, mate? Honestly, that was like a finishing move. It wasn't a fucking penalty. Absolutely
staggering. I think I put, and the other thing as well was that what got me with the penalty, and a lot of people picked up on this, is Pickford moves, and you can see Gordon's 2 steps away from the ball, and Pickford's already going.
Why is he not switch sides? Why is he not switch sides when he sees his weight leaning over to one side?
Because he's not aware. You can see his focus is purely on the ball at that point. Pickford's gone, and he's still 2 steps away. He had ample time to have spotted him going in that direction and put the ball on the opposite side, but he was so focused, tunnel vision on that ball. He lost the opportunity to change his mind. This again was Joe Linton getting into a good position. Yeah, Gordon's 5 yards short in that regard. And again, centre forward instinct probably has you on that 6 yard box. And again, as it comes on the right hand side here, Gordon, although he started this move, but he has to bust a gut to get into that area. He's got the legs to get past them all. He wasn't quick enough to get through. And again, for this one, for me, he's too deep for that ball coming in. He should be making that front post run to try and get that ball in.
And the header, he flicked back to Joe Linton as well. He should have put that goalwards. I don't know what he was heading that back to. So.
I mean, I can forgive him for that one because he gets into a really good position for that cross. And what struck me as well was how many crosses were put into the box for a striker that's not
it's
really
not
very good in the air.
Exactly. But he's not a striker.
It's true with the one that he heads back, he sort of overcooks himself, doesn't he? He gets a little bit too far ahead of the ball, and the only option he's got at that point is to try and head the ball back to another player. But again, it's all about the instinct of being a centre forward, and as good as he can be in a forward position, he will never be a centre forward likes of Isak and Wilson and those that have gone beforehand. And and that was telling. And it comes back to the fact that it's 0-0. You've got the opposition team not creating really anything of note other than their penalty shout. You've got a striker on the bench. If ever there was a time to throw him on for 10, 15 minutes at the end and say, get yourself in the box, get yourself into those positions and get on the end of something, that was it. And the fact that you'd used 4 subs and left him on the bench, I just think is beyond belief. I don't understand that one at all.
Well, we'll get into the striker in a minute. I honestly don't think he is his player, no matter what he says. Trevor's saying that Shaw took a brilliant pen in a week, calm as cold water. Why not him? That's a good point, actually, Trevor. I mean, is that a lack of leadership, Mark, from maybe Bruno, the captain, not getting a hold of Gordon, saying, "Listen, we'll get in front. You'll get your chance. Let Fabian take it." Do you think Trippier would have maybe took a bit more control of that, or would he have let Gordon take it as well?
I guess it is. I mean, look at how good his penalty was the week before.
True.
It's
he
one of those where
he wanted it for that game. He wanted it, didn't he? He said that. He said, "I'll have it. I'll have it."
I think maybe possibly too much. Is the whole theatre around the fact that it's Everton, the fact that it's at that end of the, it's the Gladys Street end, isn't it, in front of those fans, and with all the hatred coming towards him. Let's not forget these were fans that absolutely idolised him 3 years
literally
ago.
Literally chased him out of town. Literally chased him out of town. Didn't they?
I was laughing at one of the tweets from one of them yesterday. I screenshot and I forgot to put it in, and he was calling him rat face, all sorts of things, and you didn't have to go back very far in this lad's timeline to go. He absolutely loved him, and he's putting in things about how much he loves Anthony Gordon and how you don't understand how other people are criticising me. Like,
the internet never forgets. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think if the plan had always been if there was a penalty, he was taking it, then you can't just suddenly decide it, at that time in the half, just to go, no, he's not taking it. What I would have liked to see is Bruno take the ball, stand on the spot with the ball, let Anthony Gordon go and wander 20, 30 yards away from it. Take all the heat, because Ashley Young's giving it this and all of them are giving it that. And then just as they're ready for it, Gordon walks in, picks up the ball, bang. I also think he waited too long. And this whole settle himself and that double deep breath that he takes in, I think it set it up for failure.
I think Pickford scouted him, didn't he? Pickford probably seen him take his pens for England in training.
But he does. But Gordon has to be aware of what's in front of him for that penalty and see that he's made that move to go to that side and go, well, I can just switch now because I've still got 2 steps to take and you've already gone. And he played right into Pickford's hands, and that fucking
hands.
I know I am a huge member of the goalkeeper union, but I cannot stand Jordan Pickford.
Sorry, I just said little hands, another scary movie flashback. My germs. But I hate him as well. He's just, I was watching it, and I think the wife of my daughter just said, "What is that?" Is what she said about Jordan Pickford. And I just said I said that's just basically a Macam Chava, sweetheart, is what that is. But yeah, he is such a. I mean, goalkeepers are all a bit mental, but Jordan Pickford is literally one that flew over the goalkeeper's the cuckoo's nest. There's no doubt about it.
Disturbed is probably a good way to describe him.
Jesus, he would literally, if he wasn't wearing gloves, he'd be in a rubber room. There's no doubt about it. So I mean, it kind of dovetails, I suppose, into the next topic, which is striker, which we'll get into right now. But I mean, I suppose just to slightly finish on the game, and it does dovetail into this actually. Now, for me, one of the biggest issues that the club has kicked down the road for the last 3 years, or since this takeover has happened. I mean, I suppose technically they kind of handled it with Chris Wood, but since they sold Chris Wood, the biggest kind of kick down the road is not having an accomplished third choice striker to work in tandem with Isak and Wilson. And for me, this summer in particular, they got away with it in January to an extent. I suppose technically you can say they didn't because we didn't qualify for the top 4. But in this summer window, they simply had to go and get a centre forward that was Premier League ready, that could come into this team and do a job. Now, whether he was just a big battering ram that knocked people on their arse, got in the way and brought in Barnes and Gordon into play, or whether he was an old striker who was maybe looking for one last decent club payday, who didn't mind being third choice striker and being wheeled out for cup games, or whether he was a young upcoming striker who had loads of potential and a nice goal record to boot, at reserve level and championship level and all of that. Happy days, would have been great, right? But because of FFP and PSR, we had a really finite budget to spend. So these lot, in their infinite wisdom, decided to go out and sign Willis Sula from Sheffield United. And we'll get into this in a minute because me and you have had a slight disagreement about this, Mark. But he scored fuck all goals in 21 appearances for Sheffield United. And yes, I know they were shit. I know you're going to get your point on this in a minute. Yes, they were shit. But the fucking, complete proverbial shithouse looks like he should be working on a wall, says that his Everton and Diaz scored goals for that shower of shit. So there was chances that were created and there was goals to be had, and Willis Sula didn't get any. And looking at his other record at Derby, I think he only got 5 goals in 21 appearances at Derby or something like that as well. Now my point to this, and I'm be very, very important I say this, I don't blame Willis Sula for this. I blame the football club for this. I blame the football club fully, and I blame the manager. I blame the football club and the manager for being too complacent and not taking that position seriously enough, and also gambling on the fitness of 2, albeit brilliant players, shocking injury records of this football club since they've been here. And I think it was always going to come back and bite them on the arse. It did on Saturday, Mark. It cost us 2 points. So now I'll breathe. I'll let you say your bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, 10, 15 minutes of a striker the weekend, and I think you probably win the game. He was crying out for a centre forward. I said, I mean, before we were having quite the heated argument before we came on, I think, and we agree to a point in it, and I think that there are possibly better options than Willis Sula to have come in. I don't think we can make too much judgment on him, and I know you said there you don't blame him, and it's too early to tell with him whether or not he's going to be great, because
whether he's good or not,
we just haven't seen him. I was trying to have a look at the records, and I know the sort of the links, and Craig Hope talked about the value for money in the striker as well.
15 million quid. What could that have got you in the summer potentially, other than Willis Sula?
And for me, if you want somebody to come in and back up those 3, then a young striker that you're going to have is ready. I agree to that point.
Or further ahead in the development, Mark, than what Willis Sula clearly is. Ahead in the development. It's probably the best way to put it. Yeah.
So do you bring in, and my frustration at times with the transfer policy is, why is there never a use of the loan market? Why, when every club, and I think I went through Bundesliga, Serie A, and La Liga yesterday, and bar 7 clubs, every club has they're on at least 1 or 2 players on loan. Some have more. Where's the use of this market to try and just bring in somebody to bolster the squad, because you've got 2 strikers that, and let's be fair, I mean, Isak's never really had an injury problem until he's been at Newcastle.
Yeah, and he's had a few since
he's had a few, and it's not been horrendous, but it's not been great. And the fact that Callum Wilson is just completely unavailable is awful. I don't understand the lack of use of that system, but the value for money thing gets me, because I know that I think the links or the likening of the fee was to Morgan Rogers and to Liam Delap. And I think I get that argument completely, because you're looking for value for money in a player, and we don't know whether Sula will provide value for money. But at the same time, I think when you look at linking him to likening him to those players, it's difficult, because the likes of Delap have had such a grounding at City and played in the Premier League too against better opposition. He's grown up in and around that great squad and had the opportunities to play there. Sula hasn't, because of where Sheffield United were. They're not in the Premier League too. They're playing in the Development League. They're not. He's not getting the same level of quality opposition. But then that strikes you as, well, what have they seen? And if it is Eddie Howe's man, and they've absolutely said that he, they've scouted him, they've wanted him for a little while, what have you seen? And why were you not willing to give him the opportunity to come in and play? And if it's not your player, then what the hell's going on? And I sort of believe that he is, but have a chance, give him a shot. You've got to take yourself out of this stubborn nature that, whether you've picked these players and you're going to play them in the same position, or you're going to just swap out players in those positions and not move things around, or not try and change things and make something different. At the weekend, I would even gone as far as putting Joe Linton up front for 10 or 15 minutes as a proper centre forward, just to go and see if he could go and do something different. But yeah, this whole thing about the young strike, if you're going to bring somebody in like that with the injury record those two have, you have to have them ready to go, or at least be willing to play them. And I don't think either are true. I don't think he's ready for that level of football yet, and I don't think they're willing to give him the opportunity yet in the Premier League.
And it's a shame, because fans will automatically look at Asul and go, "Well, he's shite," and it's more of a frustration thing from the club's failings, really. But we know what it's like. The Kool-Aid has been drunk by the liter, by the gallon. Actually, fuck me, by some people who've got intravenous drips of Kool-Aid dripping out of their arms. Now, listen, we're all happy. We're going to do a video on the 3-year anniversary of the takeover, and spoiler alert, I'm happy with the 3 years, because we were dog shit before this happened. So it's hard not to be happy about it. But going back to this, you can be frustrated and criticize some of the things that have happened, and this is one of them. And listen, there is two massive factors at work here, Mark. Poor scouting. I think Ian just said there before, there's a lad down at Plymouth scoring goals so far. And if you look down the leagues, when the FA Cup happens, there's players who are really talented, banging in loads of goals. Look, Christ, Jamie Vardy was the antithesis of that. What was he, 1 million quid from Fleetwood? And look what he turned into. Everyone wants to get a Jamie Vardy, but you got to look for them. You can't just ring up people and go, "Oh, who's decent, who's worth a dabble." But if Eddie Howe is saying that Asula is a player that he wants to bring in, and he thinks he can nurture him and develop him, right? I'm sorry, Eddie, but that's the one position you don't have the time to do your Eddie Howe thing, where you go, right, I'm going to sign this kid and I'm going to leave him out the team for fucking 9 months, and almost like a fucking embryo, like a baby. He's leaving him in the chamber, for the Genesis chamber, for 9 months, and he comes out Eddie Howe, and you go, fucking hell, look at this player, he's amazing, he's a £30 million striker. Newsflash, Eddie, you don't have the time, not in that position, because you're holding on to a 32-year-old bloke. Regardless of how good of a finisher he is and how fucking devilishly handsome he is, he's made of glass, and he breaks all the fucking time. And Alexander Isak is picking up horrible little niggly shitty injuries. Now, if that's an issue with, I don't know, Isak's body, or if it's an issue with, the care of the player, we need to sort that out and bottom that out, because Alexander Isak is our main man. But even when he's been playing this season, Mark, he's not looked great. He's got 1 goal from a tap-in, the Jacob Murphy gift wrap from him, and give it to him on a plate with an empty net. So he's still not playing to the best of his ability. But you look through that squad and you think, right, different areas. I mean, Pope, technically you could say there's a problem there. But if Pope's injured and Dubravka comes in, it's not the end of the world. Yes, there's a drop in quality, but you can get through a game with Dubravka in goal. But when you have no centre forwards, we've got nobody. You can't just shoehorn in wingers, as you just showed quite well in your slides there, who don't take up positions. I mean, this is against Everton. We had so much of the ball and created so many opportunities to do something. But because of this oversight by the club, and honestly, Mark, I think it's arrogance by the club. I think it's stubbornness and arrogance by Howe as well, that this has come back and this is costing us points already. What happens if we don't get top 4 by 2 points at the end of the season? It's that Everton game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you do wonder, and I see, it's a really difficult one to kind of go over, because I know that the club have talked about a pint and a bit of banter to do with a
pint.
Love
that, right? Brad, a pint and a bit of banter. I think I need a pint after talking about that striker situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's gone through the thinking with it. The arrogance, maybe a little bit of stubbornness. We know that I think Eddie Howe is particularly stubborn when it comes to his decisions. But to go in, I don't understand the thinking of going into a season where if your target is Europe or bust, then you're looking at two strikers that have missed an awful lot of time. And I think the comment in there that Eddie Howe said that Gordon's his third striker. Well, he's not. You might think he is,
striker.
but he's not. He's not a third striker, and he is. He's showing his lack of. I want to say lack of ability in that area. But he will score goals. We know that. You know, he will have good games and he will have bad games. But it's that instinct as a striker, and it's sorely missing. But to not have the nous as a club to go and we need somebody in this position. Like I said, go and use the low market. Go and find absolutely. A player that's in form. And let's be fair to us,
a player who wants a chance, who's got ability. Like, is it Mokogo from Dortmund, who's got ability? Yes, he had injury problems, but he's got ability. He scored goals in Bundesliga and in European football. Why not have a go at him? He went on loan to Nice, for fuck's sake. He would have come on loan to Newcastle.
I would imagine so, and I think the problem when you bring in a player like Asula, and the knives were out already at the very beginning because of the record last season for Sheffield United, and for me, gets a pass because Sheffield United were just that shit. But he didn't play the season before. He played 2 games in the Championship when they got promoted. Why was he not utilised more at that point?
Exactly.
If the value is at 15 million, why it can't have been nothing 2 seasons ago? And if you've been scouting him for this length of time, what was going on 2 seasons ago that caused Sheffield United, who, let's be fair, they're not full of stars in that squad, and they weren't in that season. Why was he not breaking into the side then and getting in like others have done?
So just for the record, Asula, 57 appearances in his whole career. That's at all levels, and he's got nine goals. That's just, is that Premier League, League One, Championship, FA Cup, EFL Cup, FA Youth Cup, EFL Trophy, and Champions Playoffs. So it's not got any of the Danish stuff in there.
No.
Liam Delap, just for the record, in terms of his overall performance, and yes, you're right, it is kind of heavily weighted by the Manchester City. I mean, fucking hell, in that Premier League 2, 32 games, 32 goals, but it's a bit like cheat code FC, I suppose, isn't it? When you're when you're surrounded by all that talent. But just for the record, 147 career appearances across all the different leagues and things for Liam Delap, 64 goals and 18 assists. Now, yes, that's heavily weighted by the 32 he got for Manchester City in the Premier League 2, but he still got 12 and 68 appearances in the Championship. If you compare that to Asula, 7 Championship appearances, 0 goals. So, I get what you're saying about Delap, but I just think, I know there's a caveat to Delap, which I'll let you cover in a minute about the buyback clause, but I just think that's poor scouting by the club. No disrespect to Ipswich Town, great club, loving the bits, Bobby Robson connection and all that, really happy they're back in the Premier League. But Ipswich Town fans would know if they were after Liam Delap, that we came in from, realistically, he'd have ran to St James's Park. So we haven't made a move for that player, and I want to know why. That's what I want to know. What was the club doing?
So, I mean, two things on the back of that. I know the Premier League 2 stats, I mean, he's got 32 and 32, I think, in Premier League 2.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. The caveat to that is we don't know what Asula's stats are like for that level of Sheffield United because they don't exist. Premier League 2 stats are there, but because Sheffield United don't play in those divisions, then we don't know what his record was like playing in their equivalent side. The Delap thing, I know you're talking about this kind of buyback clause and things, and the fee might be the same. The problem for me with the Delap deal for Ipswich is depends on what the clauses that go with that are. And obviously Ipswich were willing to go with them because it suits them. They might only be in the division for a season. It might not cost them an awful lot in the long term.
Yeah.
Little bit like some of the deals we saw last season. I think Cameron Archer went to Sheffield United from Aston Villa for about 18 million, but there was a clause in that said that if they got relegated, that they'll have bought him back for the same value. Different with City, but I think they would have a buyback clause in there where they could go, well, anytime in the next 3 years we buy him back for 25 million. That's fine for Ipswich because they make a bit of a profit on him. If that's the case, they might decide not to take that buyback clause on. But for Newcastle, that would be an awful deal because you could buy a 15 million striker in Delap, and within 2.5 seasons, he's worth 60, 70, 80 million. And City buy him back for 25 million. So that deal just does not suit Newcastle United at this time. Now, whether that's a different deal that Newcastle can negotiate, but it's that kind of striker that you want somebody in the background that's building into the first team, like a Delap, like a Ferguson. Obviously, for coming through at Brighton, who hit the headlines there before his injury. But it's those kind of players that you kind of want to come in and be the next ones through. Somebody that's got pedigree. I go back to the fact we just don't know with Asula yet because we've not seen enough of him, and he may turn out to be great. He may spend the next 4 seasons out on loan, and then be released on a free. We just don't know yet. But I do think there were better options to bolster the squad for this season for Newcastle, whether that was by buying in or using the loan market. And I think it's been, I genuinely think the loan market's criminally underused by the club.
It is these
to come in, because especially with PSR issues, because it's not going to cost that much. And if you've got the millions that you had set aside for the Mark Gay deal, there surely had to have been wages available to be able to go and try and utilize that market and get you a season where you make European football and then go out and spend next season again. It baffles me that that's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not being used.
We were saying that in the messages before we put the show together that there's leagues like La Liga and Serie A and stuff like that where you could pick up an absolute diamond of a young striker who's on the fringes of Milan or Juventus or something like that, and you might never heard of him. He comes in and he looks fucking incredible. I mean, remember when we signed Perez from Tenerife, and he did a job, didn't he? Everyone was going, "Who the fuck is Jose Perez?" And he come in and he scored goals. If Will Asula was that kind of a player, you wouldn't have a problem. You think it was an absolute brilliant bit of business by the football club, but it's just so poor. And I don't know who's to blame for it. I don't know if it's Howe, if it's the board, if it's the change around with the board upstairs. I don't know what it is, but one thing is for certain. After today in the court case with Manchester City, we haven't forgot that, guys. There is a video coming out about that, hopefully tomorrow. That could change things potentially. Maybe allow more money to come through the club market. Maybe we can be better moving forward, getting players for these key positions like that, where we can maybe spend a bit more money.
Yeah, and you hope that the deal that or the court victory that City have really had today opens the door up to a little bit more commercial revenue that can come in from associated parties. And I don't think as some have kind of hit the ground with, it means Newcastle are just going to be able to go out and spend whatever they want.
No, I don't think
so. Furiously rewriting the rules as we speak to try and combat that. But I think it will open the door to more more cash coming in, whether that's
more investment because of the revenue being generated by the sponsor deals. Absolutely. Baz is saying, does Howe have the final say on incoming players? I'm not sure he does anymore, Baz, but I think maybe Asula was one that came through before the rules changed, because I think, to be fair to Mitchell, I don't think he had much to do with this window that just went through. I think it was all the players that were agreed to come in were already coming in. So January is a real litmus test, I think, for Mitchell. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got some way to go to kind of earn a little bit of trust now with just the way that some of the interviews went down. But he's got to be working hard in the background and on deals and finding players that Eddie Howe wants and can build this squad. I was just having to think before as well about the striking options and stuff. Tammy Abraham went to Milan. 1.5 million loan deal. Would you have taken him for a season?
I was snapped as fucker. Snap your hand off at Tammy Abraham.
Just
would you rather have Tammy Abraham on the bench in that game against Everton? He could have come on and done something. Bit of pace, bit of strength, finishing.
I know he's had his injury issues as well, but as a loan deal where it's not ridiculously expensive, just something like that would. I'd go back. I just don't understand why that market isn't used.
It makes you wonder too, with the whole City court case. Before we move on, does that open the door for maybe some loan deals from the Saudi league potentially, and some of the players, who maybe some of the guys I mentioned Benzema in the comments there, which I don't know if that'll happen, but that'd be fucking hilarious. But does it open the door, for this fair market value thing that they put us under the microscope for with ASM? Does it create a little bit more freedom for the PIF to say to Newcastle, right, okay, listen, there's a few players here who maybe aren't settling, a few players who maybe need to move away, maybe get their head right. How about, and there's some very talented footballers over there, and we could potentially get a hold of them and get them on loan in January.
I can't see it.
No,
because I think the way that that it's done, I think Newcastle is still really cautious of upsetting everybody at this point, and there'll come a point where they don't give a fuck about it. But I think at the moment, while things are still up in the air a little bit, I don't think they'll try and push it too much. You might get the odd one. I don't think there's going to be too many that would even be a consideration. I think for anything, the wages for most of them are far too high.
True. Very true.
I don't think they'll ever get past a player coming in on 10% of their wages being paid by Newcastle and 90% still being paid by the Saudi club or anything like that. I think that would cause huge problems. But I think what it does do is you start to get business deals re-looked at again, and that sort of the sponsorship deals for around the stadium and around the training ground and training kits and things. If a City had a couple of deals knocked back by the Premier League, those will get re-looked at again. I think Newcastle probably will be in the same boat. I seem to remember there being a couple of deals that were rumoured to have been knocking around that Newcastle had rejected by the Premier League because it was above fair market value. So those may get revisited as well. And if that's the case, then yes, cash flow comes in. It means more money to spend. January could be interesting at that point. If that is the case, at the very least next summer, you would like to think that there will be a bigger pot of money to spend than just 70 million on Mark Gay, who, by the way, I think will probably only cost about 40 million by the time we get to next summer.
Well done, Parish. To be fair, Neymar needs some game time because he's struggling to get back from his injury. So we'll maybe give him a little cheeky 6-month loan deal. I'll do the job. But one thing that's definitely dominating the news, and it's all very interesting in terms of money and revenue and all this other stuff, the move from St James's Park is back in the news and back in a big time. Moving house is what we've called it. So this has been doing the rounds for as long as the takeover, it actually went through. And it seems to be there's been discussions with the club, with is it the Freeman and Newcastle. There's been all these meetings going on about what's the most plausible option. Is it to develop St James's or is it to move? Now, this is a diagram that we had pulled up in. I think it's Lees's Park, isn't it? Which seems to be the one everyone talks about, Mark, for those listening on the audio. So talk us through this one, because I think you think this is probably the most viable option, isn't it? But just before you do, my caveat to this is you need to have a successful team on the pitch for the fans to accept that we're going to be leaving St James's Park to a brand new stadium, because if we ain't doing that, doing this will be difficult.
Yeah, I think if you're going to stay where you are in that area of Newcastle, then that probably makes the most sense, is trying to relocate, but just within this same patch, and the ability to then repurpose the ground that St James's Park is currently sat on and things like that. So it does make an awful lot of sense. I was having a conversation with one of the lads at work today about this, and I know there's a traditionalist view of this, and I'm kind of one of those where I don't like to see clubs move away from their traditional home, because there's something just romantic about certain football club stadiums, but I know times you've got to move on, and teams need bigger grounds. Arsenal was one of those where, Highbury wasn't very big at all. It needed modernising. They couldn't do it where it was. They had to move. Spurs the same. Newcastle are stuck because you can't really do an awful lot with the way that St James's Park is positioned. Could you move it, into that gap behind it? And I think that's a really plausible move, so long as everybody's all right with it. And I think there are going to be problems with the environmental groups and that sort of thing. The way I was talking to the lad at work earlier on is, I still come back to that bit of land where the arena is. It's a huge plot of land.
But the arena move has to go ahead because that's been delayed and delayed.
Well,
and
yeah.
delayed, and they haven't broke ground on that.
But if that's going to happen, would it be such a travesty? And bear in mind that I am one of those traditionalists, and I like old stadiums, and I like that. Would it be such a travesty to move from its current location to where the arena is? It's still within the city centre. It's still within walking distance of Central Station. It's well located. It's well, it's good in terms of public transport links and all that kind of stuff. There's enough ground there to be able to build a big stadium. That's 70, and have options, and also be able to then utilize that place for other stuff, to build along the quayside, along that route, to perhaps on the front end of that, to have the hotel base, to have that sort of stuff there, to bring more commercial revenue in there. There's the ground there to be able to have. Is it better to then go to bring in other sporting attractions into that, to have boxing, to have concerts, to have
concerts? Yeah, you could
do
that. It opens all those doors up, doesn't it? Really, yeah. And
I don't think where St James's is now, you don't get an awful lot of that because of the residential area. Just moving, is it? Would it be so bad? I think that's my question to everybody in the comments, and everybody that either watches this or listens to it later on. Drop us a message in, and just, would it be such a travesty if Newcastle moved from where it is now at St James's Park down to that plot by where the arena is?
Certainly, the way we're shooting, mate. I don't know how many balls are going to go in the water. I tell you, that's probably the only you have to have a team full of deep sea fucking divers to go get them out, mate. Especially some of Jacob Murphy's shooting, I think. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It does seem to be the modern day natural evolutionary path of a football club. Spurs have done it, Arsenal have done it, City have done it, Everton are in the throes of doing it. People just seem to do it, don't they? New stadium. It's almost becoming like everything else: new hospital, new school. This is just easier to build a new one than it is to fix the old one or to improve the old one. But you're right, Mark. I'm very much like you. Whilst I understand that evolutionary step, listen, we'd love to go to the games, Christ, and there's a young generation of fans who can't get tickets, who might get bored of waiting for Newcastle tickets and go and support somebody else. And then Newcastle don't want to lose that next generation of supporters, so it's a real difficult situation for the club. But there is something just magical about that stadium and about, when you're in there, and it's, I'm not comparing it to the new camp. Fucking hell, I've been in the new camp. It's incredible. But, these clubs, I think Bobby Robson said it best. It's more than bricks and mortar, isn't it? There's something special. There's a spectre captured in there from generations and generations of fans, and you can walk in there with an 80-odd-year-old bloke, and he'll go right back to a Super Mac header or something like that, and then you go back in with a dad who's taking his kid, and he goes back to seeing Shearer's first goal, and that stadium has all of those memories bottled in it, almost like kind of ghosts of the past. And if you go somewhere else, you lose all of that. You don't bring that with you. I don't care how many seats you've got. I don't care how nice the fucking food is in the foyer and how many fancy beer things go from the bottom and fill your glass up. You don't get that experience when you go to that ground, when you walk up those steps and you see those lights and that grass, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. It takes you back to all the games you've been to, Man United 5-0, Barcelona 3-2, all of these unbelievable games that happened right in that spot for generations and generations of fans. And so that's the question you've got to ask yourself, right? Is it sentiment, or is it, I don't know, sentiment or revenue, and growth? What we're looking at here, we're looking at a business, or we're looking at a religion and a love and a football club. It's a real battle of your kind of your inner compass of the morals, really, isn't it? Kind of conscious, really, conscious fighting with each other, So it's a weird thing for me. It really is.
And you talk about ghosts of the past. You just got to remember the toilets behind the Gallagher. That was a ghost of the past. Christ Almighty!
You still smell some of them ghosts of the past.
Jesus. But there's an interesting point in there, and actually, there's talk about this, that having a bigger stadium, losing the atmosphere and things.
Yeah, and Philip said that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and this is where my traditionalist head comes in, because I hate the soulless bowls, the likes of West Ham. Atmosphere
West Ham Stadium's
shocking.
Fucking lifting. I mean, they got a loophole anyway, didn't they?
I don't remember watching Man City games when they played at Main Road being anything near as bad as they are now in terms of atmosphere. And I don't know whether that's just like recency bias, where
coming there from Eddie
Arena
Vision,
Bellway's
owned by Bellway.
So I didn't know that, so there you go. Thank you for that, because I didn't know that.
Thanks for that, Eddie. Cheers, buddy.
Basically, that comment just came on the back of a conversation with a lad at work. I hadn't actually looked into it, so thank you for that. The whole soulless ball thing is it's awful when you look at these things. They all look exactly the same. I want something with a bit of character. I want something that reminds you of where you are. You go to Sunderland, you go to Borough. They're different stadiums, but they look very, very similar. You look at any of those bowl style things, and they just look shit. And I'm not picking on those two in particular, but they're the closest ones, and they just look awful. I want something with a bit of soul. And you'd hope that if they are going to build a new stadium, that's taken into account, and that some of the life of the current St James's Park is taken with it. I know you can't take it all, but I'd want some of that to go with it. But you come back to that. If that land is owned by Bellway and is going to be something else, then fine. Then it comes down to Leazes Park, and I can't.
Yeah, there's an interesting comment there from Chris that he can't see the council and the Freeman will give up Leazes Park. It's too important to people, and he does caveat. I think Ty's had to have a little bit of banter with him on it there, but he did say that he's sure many people use that park after losing someone in the RVI. Which is a valid point. It is a valid point. It's almost a bit of greenery away from the city. People will walk around, and but it might be consideration for that with Greenbelt. They might make something there, Chris, to still allow people to get around the outskirts of it potentially. I don't know.
But would they feel better if then, like, obviously when you remove St James's from its current location, if you're going to move it, and I think somebody mentioned earlier up in the comments about land swap, and basically just rebuilding the park and it's sort of down the bottom end by where St James's is now, and if the repurposing of the land is going to be like that, then would that be an option?
Not with a stack there, a bunch of piss heads pissing in the bushes. I don't think
no, but we know that's a temporary thing that could easily be shifted elsewhere. But it is a difficult one, because at the very end of it, I still come back to the fact that I don't like clubs moving from their traditional homes, because that's the life and soul of that area of the city. From a commercial point of view and wanting to get more fans in, I get it. I really do. It is a difficult one, but you'd love to see 60, 70,000 fans in full tilt. I mean, the noise at St James's when the atmosphere is up, and we've all seen it, and we've all
sampled it. We've all sampled
and
it.
It's unbelievable. It is quite simply one of the best in the country. So to have more of that would be amazing. Well, you don't want to lose that as well. That's the key.
I do think I agree with some of the comments. I think the Saudis want a new stadium. I think they do. I think they're seeing the pound signs. I think they know there's a huge waiting list for for fans. They know there's more corporate boxes that can sell, which is big money, more sponsors that can bring in the next generation of fans. They want fans overseas to be able to fly in and have an experience. So I think the more consideration of that from the business perspective, I think the business perspective will overrule the sentimental perspective. But what I'm saying is, Manchester City were able to do it because they were winning and they were successful and they were doing things. If you're not doing it on the pitch, that kickback that you have already will intensify even more so. Because if you're not doing it on the pitch, I think there will be some blowback. But with Newcastle, I think as Trevor says there, you can't get a ticket, which is absolutely right. So I think people will still go and watch, even if we're not particularly great. If we're top 8 or top 9 or 10 or whatever, people will still buy tickets and go, and maybe we can start again. But they want to be number one. So a new stadium does mean it needs success in the pitch, in my opinion. But it'll be an interesting debate. We'll keep our eye on it, mate, as everything goes through the motion. So finishing with the last one, Out of Toon tonight, where we talk about things that are non-Newcastle United as well, but just starting with the Newcastle United thing as well, because Anthony Gordon had a really tough time against Everton. I mean, there was a beautiful video beforehand, we're not going to pull that up, where it was him taking the time to spend some quality time with a young girl who just recovered from cancer. It was heart-melting stuff. I think you said you had dust in the house, Mark, when you watched it. Because it was
definitely dusty in this house.
Definitely, I think my hay fever was kicking in, absolutely. But beautiful video, and it shows you that great side of Anthony Gordon. That just was brilliant. And it's a real shame because he said if he'd scored, he would have done a celebration. I was hoping that would have happened. But this shows you the maturity of the lad. I mean, I think after the penalty, we talked about it in post-match, he didn't go hiding when he missed the pen, which I was really impressed with his character for. He still wanted the ball. He still wanted to make something happen. But he did say there, this was what he posted. He said, a great performance, just couldn't put them away. And that one's on me. Never easy missing, but you'll never, ever see me shy away from stepping up for my team. Thanks to everybody who travelled. Until next time. So I thought that was a nice touch by Anthony to do that. And it shows you the maturity of the lad, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I know it's easy to say it, but you do look and you go, he didn't shy away. He did work hard. He got into some good positions. The miss in the second half that he blazes on the bar. Oh my word! I just you have to hit the target. You've got to put it across the goalkeeper at that point. And again, just another one of those frustrating moments. But he didn't shy away. He didn't go hiding. He didn't just dip in and out of the game. He did put a shift in, and I mean, so desperately wanted to see him do that celebration for that, because that would have been phenomenal. But I'm sure it won't be long until we get to see it.
Absolutely, and he did show real maturity there. Somebody who hasn't showed a great deal of maturity is Graham Souness's favourite player, Paul Pogba. So Paul Pogba has been back in the football news recently, and it's confirmed that Juventus want to reach an agreement with Pogba to terminate his contract, making him a free transfer. That there's stories about him going to America. I mean, this fucker's destined for into Miami or something.
Would you have him at St James's?
Would I bollocks have him at St James's Park? No fucking.
On a free.
No chance. No, mate. I wouldn't even take him if they paid me. Fucking no way. But I mean, what a waste of a career. Stupid decisions. A guy who thinks he's way better than he actually is. Yes, he's got ability. Yes, he's done something, but probably destined for the MLS. And they probably love him over there, maybe like the Dennis Rodman of football, any over there. They probably take them quite well, I think.
Dennis Rodman had character though. Pogba's just doesn't. When we say good wins to bad rubbish, like he's just you've always described him as an Instagram footballer, and that's exactly what he is. More interested in his brand than his football. He only really ever showed up for France. I mean, Juventus are well short of him at this point. Let him go and retire off and earn his money in Saudi or in America. I mean, I think he's already got. He has a house in Miami, I think. So maybe that's his end game
for me. Absolutely destined for it as well. But listen, Paul Pogba may have thought.
Sorry, can you imagine Eddie trying to get Pogba to press? No, I can't. No. That's not going to happen.
No, I don't even think you get Pogba to press his trousers, mate. That don't press on a football pitch. Unbelievable. But Pogba thought he was world class. Thought he was something special. Thought he had nerves of steel. He only dreams he could be as good as this young Palace fan who come on and took a penalty at half-time when they were playing Liverpool. What an absolute fucking legend this little lad is. Not only did he smash the penalty in the back of the net, but he then went over and shushed the Liverpool supporters. Massive respect. The confidence on him, man.
What a hit as well. What a penalty.
A great hit, mate. You should maybe teach Gordon how to take them, mate.
I tell you what, I was just about to say, the technique in that strike could teach a few Premier League footballers a thing or two. So, fair play. And have the bottle to turn around and go shush the Liverpool fans is just brilliant. I mean, well done. Brilliant.
Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. There's mind you, speaking of class as well, Raul Jimenez's assist against Manchester City, that back heel was X-rated.
God.
Filth. That could have been on Pornhub, that thing. It was saucy as a motherfucker.
If you haven't seen that, go and watch the highlights, because that is that's worth the entry fee alone. That thing was just... It was beautiful. I mean, what an assist that is.
I'm glad he didn't do that against us, but my word, it was absolutely brilliant. But there was a big talking point from that game as well. Was Pep Guardiola was at it again with his talking to players, and he was all over Adama Traore. That's right, the guy who doesn't work out even though he's got biceps bigger than fucking bowling balls. So Adama Traore was at his typical best at the weekend, Mark, where if that lad could finish, he would probably be the Ballon d'Or winner, because he's got pace, he's got strength, he could just glide past players, but he cannot finish a sentence if you give him a full stop on a plate. So Pep Guardiola was after the game giving him some kind of advice on how to move his body, and I think I cheekily tweeted that's just in the hope that Traore learns how to finish, and then Pep can put a bid in for him and sign him in the summer.
If the kid had an end product, he would be absolutely unbeatable. You watch the run he has, that he completely tortures Kyle Walker. It is unreal. I know Kyle Walker's got a few years on him, but he's still lightning quick. But it's funny because there's times when him and Jimenez look really, really good. They did it at Wolves, where playing down the right hand side, he would just burn people. Day in, day out, and he's starting to have a little bit of this little click with Jimenez, and provided him with a few assists. So Fulham would hope for that. But I thought, other than this finishing, he could have had a hat trick easily. His finishing completely lets him down, and it's one of the reasons why I think Barca were ready, willing to let him go. It didn't work at Villa. It didn't really work at Borough. It didn't really work at Wolves, really. And then he's found another home at Fulham. And if he suddenly learns how to have an end product and a cross or a shot, he's going to be ridiculous. But I just kind of see it happening. I think we're destined to always see him just be ridiculously quick and get past people, and that's it.
That's literally all he has in his locker. But he can't be an absolute machine, to be fair to him. Do you know what I mean? He's just
like
kind of
fucking brick shit house, isn't he? I mean, he's huge. There's no way that lad doesn't go to the gym.
Oh mate, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it at all. I'm not buying that he doesn't do any weights at all. He's an absolute monster. I'm just not having it, mate. I'm not having it at all. That he's that he doesn't go to the gym, as you say. I mean, you don't look like that and be that much of a beast. If you're not hitting the gym at some particular point, mate.
Or as Ian calls him, a beefcake.
Oh. Is he a beefcake? Is he? Steady on, Ian. I'll tell you who didn't have a great time of it the weekend was poor Ange Postecoglou, as you can see there, looking very sad. I think somebody put in the comments that Spursiest performance yet. Obviously, Brighton coming back and beating them 3-2. I love Ange. I love him in the press conference. I think he's brilliant. He's a real class act. But is this an Ange problem, Mark, or is this a Spurs problem? Because can you coach the DNA out of a team like that just seem to shit the bed as almost as a reflex?
Well, I mean, what gets me is it runs through the DNA of the club, doesn't it? But how many of those players are like old Spurs players that were in that lineup. When you look at Solanke's new, Johnson's really new. Timo Werner is the worst footballer, the excuse for footballers. Again, another one. If he could finish, he would be ridiculous, but he can't, and he never will. Madison's new. Van der Ven, Doggy, none of them have really got history in Spurs. So
what's the excuse this time?
I think it's just ingrained in the DNA of that club, and it is the Spursiest of Spursy performances that they've ever had.
It is.
It's just, yeah. I mean, they're baffling. Absolutely, we look brilliant for 45 minutes this week. They looked great last week against Manchester United, and then turning that in the second half. So yeah, just I mean, Postecoglou looked lost.
He really,
absolutely
really
lost.
Which is a real shame as well, because like I say, he's been a breath of fresh air since he's come in. I think he's handled it so well. But yeah, just I don't know what the answer is for Spurs. They've had young managers, up and coming managers. They've had established quality managers like Mourinho, Conte. You know, Ange's obviously had a good kind of solid career. You know, fucking Harry, he didn't get it done either, you know. So I don't know what the answer is for Spurs. I really, really don't, apart from just perpetually losing. But talking about the opposite of perpetually losing, perpetually winning, one of the greatest ever midfielders of our generation, Mark, has just retired at the tender age of 40. Andreas Iniesta. I'm going to give you some stats before we pull up this picture, which is just ridiculous. So he's just confirmed his retirement after 22 years of football at the highest level. He won 4 Champions Leagues during a decade and a half at Barcelona. I think he's played something like over 1,000 games or something in his whole career. He's got something daft like 38 trophies, which you can see quite a lot of them on the display of this picture right now. I think he finished his career over in Japan, where he won a couple of cups, I think, as well. But mate, how good was that guy? What a player,
man! Yeah, that's just. I'm sorry to bring that up again. I mean, you just look at that and laugh, don't you? Because you just think, well,
more cups than Starbucks, mate.
Jesus, wet man. Honestly, it's unreal, and that's not even them all. So, I mean, that's not including European Championship, World Cup, the stuff in Japan. I mean, unbelievable. An unbelievable player from an unbelievable period in Barcelona's history, and him and Xavi were just godly on the football pitch. They were phenomenal, and it goes against the little guys can't play football.
100%.
There's your proof that they can.
Yeah, all the years, especially in this country, he won't make it. He's not 6 foot. He's not strong enough. He's not big enough. And the best 2 midfielders arguably on the planet were 5'3" or something. You know, and the way they use the ball. And what's so funny, I remember seeing stuff about Xavi and Iniesta, and they talked about, because we had this obsession with who's better, Lampard or Gerrard, and all the Barcelona lads used to talk about was Scholes.
Yeah,
and they all said if Scholes had been Spanish, he would have had 100 caps. You know, like just they said he was that good. As Ian says there, you know, technician, absolute quality. George says Modric is another one cut from a similar cloth. You know,
I was going to say exactly that. Yes.
Thanks, Dennis Wise. Yeah, you fucking.
I was going to bring it back into Newcastle speak that when you're talking about small midfielders that are technically brilliant, and that Luka Modric, but he's too small to play in the Premier League.
Well, yeah. Straight down to Spurs, one of the best players of all time. Yeah, thank you, little prick. Very small man. And Ian says, yeah, Busquets as well, the best trio since the biscuit. I mean, Beardsley again. George says Beardsley, he was quite a little lad as well. Still a great player, but I think it's weird. I was quite expecting Iniesta to rock up into Miami and just complete that, that kind of Barcelona retirement home. the Bex is building there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't have put it past him, but he's done his retirement out in Japan, hasn't he? So he's, I mean, well deserved now time off from football. I think he's earned it.
Fair play. And speaking of a former Barcelona protege who spent time over in North London as well, who has now supposedly got a transfer back to 1976, it's Hector Bellerin, which was this great picture that Real Betis pulled up. Look at that Barnet and that Tashman. I thought he was auditioning for the new series of Stranger Things or something when I saw that. Fuck me, that's a look and a half, isn't it?
I mean, you can almost, so if you go back to the Liverpool great side of the 70s and stuff, and he's playing alongside the likes of Sudis and stuff, and you just think, fucking hell. I mean, that is a proper throwback look, isn't it?
Is it not? I mean, I tell you what, never mind, Jimenez's back heel being on Pornhub. That look is waiting for a bass guitar to kick in. I'm telling you right now. He looks like he's here to fix the fridge, not play fucking right back, mate. That is some look. And oh my word. What the guy's saying about Dirk Diggler says Ian Monroe. George says Sid the sexiest. Rick Barlow says they need to check his hard drive. I don't know, mate. I tell you what, I bet the ladies love a bit of that look. I must admit, he's obviously going for the style there. There was some more crack in Germany as well. Oh God, yes. I actually messaged
in Germany.
More crack in Germany. I can't help myself. It just flows. Yeah. So people didn't see this. I actually messaged Mark. So what was this again? And then as soon as he said to me what it was, I thought, oh, yes, there it is. So if you didn't see already, and massive respect as well, by the way, to Aston Villa. What a win. What a performance. Brilliant. Old John Duran just seems to pop up for the big occasions now. Fucking spectacular.
It's a big boy like those strikes.
Big shout out as well. Big shout out to Rich and the Villa Park Pod. Big friends of the channel, and they must have been buzzing after that performance. But one of the funniest things in the crowd was catching the Bayern Munich fan popping himself a little bit of China White up the old bugle. And my God, TNT Sports could not jump off that clip quick enough, Mark, could they? It was like train spotting.
I can't believe it took them so long to get the camera off him. You could see him starting to do it, and he going, "Oh, he's about to take some drugs, isn't he?" And the camera's still like. And then just as it goes up, the camera cuts away. Well, you've just shown everybody what he's doing. So well done, director. You've messed that one up. Yeah. But my God.
Well done, Dave. Well done. But hey, I tell you something again, massive respect to Villa. That's exactly what us beating PSG last year. That's what it means to them. Fucking great performance from them. And they're doing really well in the Champions League. Fair play to them. Absolutely brilliant. So one person who's not having a good time of it is my mate old Eric Ballbag. Not only a Man United shit, and speaking of Villa, they couldn't beat Villa at the weekend. This was a great tweet that was saw the weekend that said, I'm pretty sure I've just seen Eric Ten Hag as the Villa ball boy. And he just seemed to be in two places at once there, Mark.
I mean, he's stuck on a bit more of a beard and stuff, but the likeness is uncanny, isn't it?
It really is. Maybe you should go in the dugout. He might do a better job, mate, to be fair.
Well, actually, I don't know what the performance is like from him. So, did he do a good job as the ball boy? I don't know, but yeah, honestly, that really stuck out.
Absolutely, but he's having a bad old time as well, Ten Hag. I must admit, I can't see him being long for this world as the Manchester United manager. I really can't. I think he's going to be.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were killing him off there. Christ,
no,
that's extreme.
He doesn't need me to kill him off. He's killing himself, mate. Don't worry about that.
Is it the worst? Is it the worst start United of Man United? Sorry,
Man United.
Jesus, I've slipped into
yellow
Man
card.
United.
Give Mark a yellow card in the comments, guys, for that one. He's dropped.
I'll take that. I'll take the yellow for that. The worst start Man United have had. The three worst have been Solskjaer and then Ten Hag with 9 points last season, and he's beaten it with 8 points this season. So.
Hook it to my veins. It's absolutely brilliant. Long may it continue. Long may it continue. And just to finish on a point, actually, we covered this now, too, a couple of weeks back. So this was a bit of retribution, Mark. So we covered this when it happened. There was a massive kickoff between Blackburn Rovers and Preston North End, where I think one of their players clattered one of the other players. And there was footage of a Preston North End player fucking biting the Blackburn player, but he's actually been done. He's had an 8-match suspension and a 15 grand fine for this. And I say, well done. You can't go around biting players, man. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, I did say, didn't I? I think lengthy ban is on its way in 8 games. I'm not surprised. I'm almost surprised it wasn't longer. But I think what Suarez got about that 8-10 games, didn't he, for it? So I think that's sort of precedent. But I mean, what goes through your head to do something like that? What a fucking idiot.
What an idiot, man! Absolute spanner, but yeah, absolutely. Well done, and good to see that he got the punishment there as well, which is well deserved. So that's us done, guys, for tonight. What's going on? And he said Out of Tune there. It's only one section. The whole show is what's going on. Yes, thank you very much for everyone who's tuned in tonight. I really appreciate you. Your comments always help the episodes flow. It is an international break. So Newcastle are going to be away for a little bit without causing stress and pain. And hopefully when they come back, they'll have a couple of centre forwards to bang into the team and maybe actually finish the chances that they create. But we will have a couple more videos coming out this week. We are going to talk about the Man City court case. And we're also going to talk about the 3-year anniversary of the takeover and see whether we're happy, sad, or indifferent about it. So keep it evermore, guys. If you like that kind of thing, subscribe if you haven't already. Most of you guys in the chat have done, and we love you for it. But recommend us to family and friends. Help get us to that 9K. Like the video, help the channel grow. Thanks for all your support tonight, guys. Have a belter. Enjoy the international break, even though they're so crap. And we'll see you when Newcastle come back, I'm sure.
Take care, guys. See you
Cheers,
later.
guys. Bye-bye.